Welcome to the Trainer Talk, where we discuss topics related to health and fitness to help you gain back control of your health and fitness and become the absolute best version of yourself physically and mentally. Enjoy. We are live for another Trainer Talk. So this week, we want to talk about consistency and intensity, and specifically adding both of them together. So a lot of people, as they know, is consistency is very, very important for succeeding in whatever goal you have. Consistency is definitely a key element. However, I think people overlook the amount of effort that also goes into it when it comes to achieving your goals. And so I want to provide a little bit of insight on what's worked really well for me and what I notice and commonly see when it comes to people starting or along their fitness journey. So thinking back to, when I first started, I started working out pretty regularly, at least 3 days a week, maybe five, eventually get to 5 days a week. But the key is that I never stopped. So I'm coming up on probably 14 years of training, about 5 days a week, every single week. But the other additional thing with that is every training session I try to put in as much effort as I can or have available to me that day. So I'm not saying I'm maxing out in destroying myself every single workout, because some days you're going to feel a little bit better than others, but I'm putting in, for the most part, the most effort that I have available to me. Like this week, I could have made the excuse like, oh, I threw my back out, I'm just going to rest all week. Instead of doing that, even though I couldn't really stand up 100% straight, I still did some workouts, whatever I could do, whatever effort I could put forth. And I still was focusing on the movements I was doing, making sure I was going until I felt the burn or felt the failure of the reps. So there's definitely a lot to the consistency plus the intensity aspect. Just to give you guys a little bit of examples of where I see kind of two different buckets or two different types of people, and we were just talking about this a little bit earlier, is, you've got your gym goers that have been coming here or going to some gym for years and years and years, and they've got their routine. They go in and they do their 20 minutes on the treadmill at 4 miles an hour or whatever it is. They do a couple of machines for 3 sets of 10 with 40 pounds, and they do that consistently for years and years, which there's nothing wrong with that. Like, it's amazing that you can stay consistent. I think it's really good for your overall health, really good for your mental health. You're definitely going to stay healthier as a person. You'll be able to move a little better, but
it only takes you so far.
Yeah, it only takes you so far. You're never going to truly reach your ultimate fitness goals if you have some. If you just care about feeling good and moving, that's great. Just do that. But if you're somebody that's like, I really want to achieve X, whether it's losing a bunch of body fat, building a bunch of muscle, maybe it's running a half a marathon or a 5K, a 10K, you've got to train with a certain level of intensity in order to get there. The other side of the spectrum is those people that I want to lose 20 pounds, 30 pounds. I want to get in as best shape as possible this year. And they go into a program, like they join classes, they join the gym, they get a personal trainer, and they go 100% intensity 5 days a week, and they quickly burn out and then they quit. So that's the other bucket. The other type of person is those people that want all the results as fast as possible. They go 100% effort, but they have zero consistency. After a month, they quit, or maybe they go weeks without going, and then they come back in. They're kind of sporadic. They start and stop, those yo-yo type people. Those people are also not going to achieve their goals in the end. So you really do have to combine both. So I want to get your guys' input on that as well. And then we could obviously help the audience with different ways on what we mean by combining both and give them some tips and stuff like that. But
yeah, combining both. It's taking like the best of both worlds of like, okay, you're not, you're keeping that consistency, 80% of the time or 90% of the time. Like, you don't have to be that 100% consistency. You also don't have to be 100% intensity all the time. Like you have that dial that we always talk about of like, okay, sometimes you're just at like maintenance, like you're keeping that consistency, and then you're ramping up the intensity, and then you're dialing back to maintenance, and then ramping up the intensity for different, times a year, different goals, rather than having such black and white, like especially for the people who come in with the really high intensity mindset. They're like, I'm gonna get these 20 pounds off as fast as I can. Either they do get it off and then they go back to right where they were because they don't know what that like maintenance is, that those healthy habits. They were just doing it for a short amount of time to get that result. They didn't have the like longer term picture of it, of keeping that weight off. Or then there's the people who are consistent and then they think like, as long as I just put enough time in, then I'll get there. But like you said, like we can see people in the gym for 5-10 years, and if they're never pushing their growth, maybe they get some growth their first couple months when they're a complete beginner, but after a while, like you don't see any more growth benefits from that, or you're not pushing enough to see those changes. Like your body has to be challenged in order to change, and that's where the intensity comes in. And as you're kind of talking about it, I thought of an analogy for like savings. Like say you want to save a certain amount of money by the end of the year, which would be similar to like a weight loss goal. Like I want to lose X amount of pounds by the end of the year. Like I want to save $10,000 by the end of the year, right? So you could go super intensely with it and not go out at all for a few months and really penny pinch and really save a bunch of money. But the next month you could blow it all those savings that you worked hard for in those 3 months, because you went super intense and you're like, you know what? This is too hard. Like I'm never going to stick with this the rest of my life. Like I'm just going to go on a shopping spree and blow $5,000, right? And then it puts you back there, and then you just keep going through those cycles of like intensity and then the blowout, and intensity and blowout. Or there's people who are consistently, maybe they are saving a little bit of money each day, but it doesn't add up to 10 grand at the end of the year saved. Like it has to be a certain level to get that result.
They might not be thinking about or focusing on, okay, what are some ways where I could save a little bit more to put towards this? How could I maybe change my lifestyle a little bit? So they're not putting that effort into thinking about how could I invest more or save more.
Yeah, right? They're not putting enough of that.
They're just like, oh, I can save $100 a month. I'm going to do that until I have X.
Right.
And which is great, right? I definitely think there's a massive benefit. Like I would rather see somebody very consistent than just super intense,
right? Yeah,
all day long. Mm-hmm. But the point of the discussion is basically you do have to have a level of intensity along with that consistency, right? Because like I said, you can come in here and go through the motions, but you're only going to get so far,
right? And I think as you go on to when you first start, when you have that consistency, I think you're going to see pretty good results just with that consistency, until you hit that point of where that intensity starts to play a little bit bigger of a role in your working towards your goals. And I think a lot of times there's the case of people not knowing how to go harder or be that intense in a workout, just because they've never been in that situation and it's not a comfortable place to be in. So I think it takes practice. And when you see somebody like even you or Martin or you sometimes in a workout, like in they're going super intense, it's like, whoa, like that's impressive. And you can tell the people that have found out how to be comfortable in that. And like when you get on to more of an athlete or an elite level, like you can have two of the same people, same workouts, doing the exact same thing, same nutrition, same sleep, same habits, but this person is 5 to 10% more intense in their workouts than this person. That person who's more intense is going to get way more out of each workout individually than the other. And so they're going to start to see better results. And like I've been, even myself, like we're doing the same thing before. Why am I not as fit? Or like, why am I not seeing the same results? I think a lot of it comes down to just that level of intensity.
Yeah, 100%. And as I think about this, I really think like the perfect formula, I think you're right. Like once you get consistent, it's important to address the intensity after a certain point, because you will hit a plateau. Typically after about 4-8 weeks, depending on your level and how long you've been doing it or where you're starting from. So if you can just start out, okay, I need to just get to the gym, 3 days a week. and get into that routine, you're going to make some quick progress, like you said. And then there is going to be a point where, like, okay, I need to kind of either step this up or change stuff up so that I can continue making progress. That's where you want to address the intensity. And the other thing that is really important to know, because you brought up like the elite level and things like that, is you only need to do this level of intensity and consistency until you get to that goal. And then once you do go, then you can go into a maintenance. It's super easy to maintain.
Oh yeah.
That's the thing, is think about anybody that's just started running and they're like, okay, my goal is to run like a 10K or a half a marathon. And so they run and they're progressively increasing the amount of distance they're doing every week. So that's where the intensity level increases so that they're making progress. They run their half marathon, and then 2 months later, there's a 5K for Thanksgiving, and they're like, that's freaking nothing. Whereas somebody that's never ran a 5K is like, oh my God, I am super nervous about this. I don't know if I can do it. But the person that put in the intensity and consistency, all of a sudden that other stuff becomes easy. It's easy to go out for a 5-mile jog, run a 5K. You can do that anytime. And you don't even have to run that often to maintain that level of fitness. As long as you do it, consistently a couple times a week and just kind of maintain, you can go out there and do whatever you want to do with it.
Well, I experienced that firsthand when I ran my first marathon and I started training. It was exactly what it was. You start slow, you're consistent, and then as you go on, you start to ramp up the intensity a little bit, longer runs, faster pace, and then, okay, I ran my half marathon. I'm not going to be running the same amount in the off season I am then, and I know that I don't have to maintain my fitness. So I was probably running at least 5 days a week during half marathon prep, and then after that 2 or 3 maybe, and not nearly as long of runs. And I was like, I'm going to lose all my fitness when I go back next fall or like next spring and start running again. I'm not going to be in shape.
Right.
But come next spring, I still had it. Like I still had that base that was there. So much easier to maintain, and then I can start ramping it up again.
And then you can get to a higher level the next time.
You reach an even further peak in that following spring than you did that past.
It is important that you can't always continue increasing to like this peak. You do have to have those moments of like, okay, I'm going to recover and maintain, and then go to a new peak, and recover and maintain. So that's another important thing, and it goes the same way with nutrition too. Like if you have a 30-pound goal for weight loss, you need to be consistent and have a certain level of intensity with your nutrition and your fitness and the habits outside of the gym until you get to that goal. And then once you get to that goal, it's much easier to maintain. All you got to, you can go from 90% on track to 75% on track and still be able to maintain that as long as you're, and by that point you've adopted the principles, you've developed the habits, and it's like second nature. Like people think, we're these super disciplined people compared to everybody else because we work out 6 days a week and we eat really clean. We're not more disciplined. We just consistently did these things long enough to where it's just part of our lifestyle. And now it's no harder than, people that have to go out to get fast food and all that kind of stuff. Like it's just as easy for us to make a meal, rather than go through the drive-through because it's second nature to us. We've done it long enough, So yeah, there's definitely a lot. There's a lot that goes into it, but it's not as hard as people think. Like if you gave it 1 solid year or 2 solid years of just, staying consistent and instilling a certain level of intensity, just putting your best foot forward and the most effort you can put in at the moment, you do that consistently, you're going to get to that goal as long as you don't quit. And then it's really easy to maintain after that.
Yeah. And I think that the flip-flop between intensity and consistency is really good for just different seasons of life, right? So some people are going to have busier seasons, or they're going on trips, or that's where it's like more the consistency is what's going to matter. Like if you're on vacation, or you got a really busy work month, or you've got kids in sports and you're running the basketball games, it's like, hey, let's just try and be as consistent as we can. Don't care about the intensity, because if you go too intense, you're going to burn out and you're not going to want to do it, or like you already got a lot on your plate. Like your cup's already 90% of the way full. You don't have a lot of room for just that extra effort in your day, because we only have so much energy that we have, right? We all have batteries, right?
Mhm.
And, you know, if most of your battery is being drained by work, by other obligations, you only have so much intensity to put in for the gym and for diet. And so you got to take that into consideration, right? So you take, okay, if we're going to go consistency, we're going to maintain during those periods. So in that way, when it's easier, that's when you go hard.
Yeah.
So
And that's where that dial, like you said,
Right.
and like what I
Mhm.
talk about is you're just adjusting that dial, and that kind of matches into like how much effort can I put in right now,
Right.
sort of thing. You just got to ask yourself, okay, if I'm working more, if it's a busy season, maybe the kids are in sports, we're running around a lot, you don't have as much energy and effort to be able to put forth, but you still have to put forth whatever you can.
Mhm.
And that's where that dial is important. It's not 0 to 100 black and white. It's okay, where am I at on a dial from 1 to 10 with my intensity? And you have to stay consistent, however consistent you can be, whether it's 1 a week, 2 a week, 3 a week. Maybe it's not 5 or 6 a week, but you're still making it happen.
Yeah, and I think consistency isn't always super controllable.
Right.
But your intensity is very controllable. Attitude and effort, attitude and intensity is very controllable, especially when you come here in the gym. And a lot of people I know might get discouraged because they can't control that they can't do a pull up. They can't control that they feel like they should be doing heavier weight, but they can't. Those things aren't always super controllable. What you can control is giving your 100% effort at what you are doing, and making the best out of it. So,
and that's what will eventually lead you to do the things that you can't yet do. You know,
Mhm.
when people see somebody doing that stuff, what they don't understand is there was a point where we couldn't do that stuff, or they couldn't do that, but through consistently putting in a lot of effort and hard work, they were able to get it. So you just got to recognize the journey and the path that they took to get to that point.
Exactly.
And so just to give you guys some examples on like, okay, how can I improve my intensity? So let's say, you are working out 2 days a week consistently every week, and you've reached this point where maybe the results, you've reached a plateau. So ways that you can kind of increase the volume is what we'll kind of use for like intensity is like, okay, maybe instead of 2, you do 3 days. Maybe instead of coming in and doing 3 sets of 10 with whatever exercises you're doing, you can do 3 sets of 12 with the same weight, or you can do 3 sets of 10 with a heavier weight, or you could do 4 sets of 10 with the same weight. So those are 3 different ways that you can increase the volume or intensity of your training. For people that walk or run, if you come in and you hop on the treadmill and you do 1% grade for 20 minutes at 3.5 miles an hour, you can either raise up the incline, you could speed up the rate of which the treadmill is going, or you could add time to the duration. Any of those 3 will increase the intensity of that workout. You could also combine them. You could always do all 3 of them and slowly work up that way. So instead of 20 minutes, you do 22 minutes with 2% and at 3.7 miles an hour, and then you slowly move that up. And you don't have to do it super fast. Like maybe you do a whole week where you just move one thing, and then the next week you do one more thing. So it takes about 4 to 6 weeks of doing the exact same thing before you'll hit a plateau. So you could do the same routine in splits for about 4 weeks before you'd want to switch that up or add some volume and intensity to it.
Another way to increase intensity would be to shorten up the rest time a little bit too. And it depends on what you're doing too. But I think a lot of times in here, the gym's a social place. So people love to talk between sets, and that conversation might turn into 5-10 minutes. And that's kind of, I think you're missing out on a lot.
That's a great point on the people that are very consistent in the gym, but they're never really going to get to where they want to go, because there's so much that goes into like how important it is. Whatever exercise you're doing, there does need to be a designated amount of rest, or else you're not going to get the stimulus you're looking for. You could be coming in here and lifting or doing a circuit on the machines, but if you are taking 3, 5, 10 minute breaks between sets, you're not going to get very far.
Yeah, I mean, if you're doing like pure strength training, then that's fine.
Yeah.
Like, it wouldn't
If you're
hurt
doing
you.
sub maximal lifts,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
need that.
Yeah, you need like a 5-minute break, but like, you know, if your cardio is recovered from your set of bicep curls, which maybe takes a minute and a half or so at the max, like, then you're scrolling on your phone for 5 minutes. It's like, okay, you're not really getting a pump in your arms because you're not like hitting that muscle right when it recovers.
Yeah.
Like right at that point of recovery, which, yeah. So on the like increasing your intensity, there's things that we implement called deloads. So that's part of the like more consistency part where like you go hard for 5 weeks where you're pushing the weight every week. You go, okay, I'm going to go up 5 pounds each week for 5 weeks. And then you get to the point of where you're like pushing to failure that last week. So that last week is like your hardest week. So if bodybuilding, it's like you're training to failure where you try for another rep and you can't do it. Like you're doing strict presses, you're not doing any weird like kipping or, you know, cheat reps. Cheat reps are, we don't need to get on that, but that's also kind of a waste of the intensity because you're missing that failure point. But trying to get to that failure point and then taking that week of back off of like, okay, instead of doing, you built up to 4 sets of 10 at 50 pounds. Okay, just go back, just do 2 sets of 10 at 40 pounds just to let your body recover. Because then that's when your body actually makes the adaptations once it kind of recovers.
Yep.
So
that's kind of like what we were talking about with DeLorean when he was training for running. Like he got to that point and then he backed off.
Yeah.
And so that would be kind of similar to like deloading. You gotta let the body recover and then you can ramp it back up. And
you're still doing something.
You reach a new high level.
Yeah.
So
same thing with diet. So the recommended time would be like, say if you're doing a fat loss diet for 8 weeks. And you're losing 1 to 2 pounds a week or a certain percentage of your body fat, you hit your 8-week mark, cool, you've lost your weight. Now it's time to go back up to your maintenance calories where you're not losing any weight because that needs to give your body a time to, one, get its hormones back to a safe level. You don't have as much diet fatigue, so you have better energy, better sleep, better gym performance. And you want to do that for at least half the time you're dieting. So if you dieted for 8 weeks, you would want to maintain your weight for 4 weeks. And, you know, try to, you know, push calories a little bit and get feeling good in your workouts, feeling better, energy overall. And like, you want to feel ready to diet again. Like, you don't want to feel like, oh my gosh, like that was so hard. If you're still feeling like that, you should probably focus on that maintenance for a while. And during that period, you know, people are like, I just want to keep losing fat. I want to keep losing fat. And it's like, you're going to burn yourself out or you're going to get to so low calories that you start just like, muscle just starts sloughing off your body. So we don't want that. That's where those maintenance periods comes in. Focus more on performance, pushing your weights in the gym, and then you can do another. So like intensity, consistency or maintenance, intensity, just those like periods and those breaks.
Yep. That's a great point. Good way to look at it for sure. And think about it more long term. You know, it's like everybody wants that weight as fast as possible, but in the grand scheme of things, like if you did that for a year, there's a good chance you'd get to that goal weight. And then when you look at a year compared to your whole life, it's like, oh gosh, I'm so glad that I just did that for the whole year.
Yeah.
And it's nothing compared to my 80-year lifespan or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
So you just kind of want to zoom out and look at it from the big picture perspective.
Yes.
Yeah. This is all really good stuff. So biggest recommendations for everybody is try to find a balance of, okay, what can I commit to as far as my training and nutrition to where I can do this consistently every week? We like to use a test called the confidence test where it's like, are you 10 out of 10 confident that you can work out 3 days a week at 6 a.m.? Yes, I can do that. Okay, great. Start there until you can make that a habit. You can consistently do it, no problem. Once you get to the point where, okay, I can add another day, or maybe it's just, okay, I've got my 6 a.m. workout 3 days a week, I'm just going to start ramping up my intensity. That's going to be like the best recipe for success long term is if you're going to make the time to go to the gym and get a workout in, you might as well put forth the maximum effort that you can in every workout. And then like Bethany said, every few weeks you can just kind of take it easy and relax and like do more of a recovery week We even have like a recovery workout every week. We have an active recovery workout. We don't always do it, but Thursdays today is the day where we just kind of give our body a little bit of a break and we just kind of move through the motions to actually help with recovery. So just getting the blood pumping, and we're not doing anything crazy intense. So every single week we've got one of these little kind of active recovery days. Whereas if you're somebody that's coming consistently working out every few weeks, you're going to want to have one of those weeks where I'm just going to go in and go through the motions and get my blood pumping, but I'm not necessarily going to beat myself up today. I think that's really important. So
for sure.
Cool. Anything else, you guys?
That's it for me.
Cool. So yeah, like we said, you really want to combine the consistency with the intensity. So if you are somebody, just kind of ask yourself, like, am I somebody that tends to go really, really, really hard for a short duration of time? Am I somebody that's had to restart multiple times? Your main focus isn't going to be the intensity, it's going to be the consistency. So maybe you have to dial back your intensity and figure out a way, how can I be more consistent every single week until I can get used to it? Whereas if you're on the other spectrum and you're somebody that's coming in and you're super consistent, you come in regularly, but you do the same old routine every single time, that is where I'm going to recommend trying some new things, or increasing that volume and intensity of your training, like we mentioned. Focusing on your rest period between sets, focusing on how much weight are you using? Are you increasing your weight, every month a little bit, or maybe adding in a few extra reps, adding in an extra set? Maybe you add in a whole extra exercise to your routine, adjust the speed of the treadmill, the incline, things like that. The more you can kind of switch that up, the more adaptations your body's going to have. So hopefully this helps you guys. If you have any feedback or have any questions, feel free to reach out. Until next time, stay healthy, and we'll see you soon. Thanks again for tuning in to the Trainer Talk. If you are ready to gain back control of your health and fitness, we would love to sit down and chat with you to see if we can put together a plan for you. All you have to do is head to taylorhutchinsonfitness.net and book a free consult. Again, make sure you like and subscribe if you like the video, and hopefully we'll see you soon.